everybody. Welcome back to Young and Wifed Up. This is Marcella.
And I'm Gabby.
And thanks for joining us today for another episode.
Today we have a spring favorites for you, and this is the 2024 version. I think we've done 2 or 3 spring favorites in the past. So if you would like to listen to our previous spring favorites, just head to wherever you're listening to this podcast and type in the search bar spring favorites, and you should find our past episodes where we talk about all of the things we have enjoyed in the springtime. So this is kind of interesting because Marcella and I always record in the beginning of the month, and right now it is April 1st. But when this podcast comes out, it'll be the end of April and we'll start into the spring/summer transition. So I thought that this would be a good time to talk about our spring favorites. So we have 8 different categories for you today. And as always, any link to any products or Spotify playlists, anything like that we talk about in this week's episode, you can find a link for it in our Patreon. Okay. So, things that we watched, and I felt kind of bad because I wrote this first. And I knew that you would be like, "Are you serious? We can't have the same
I
favorite."
figured something else out pretty quick.
So, both Marcella and I, the week that I went to Tennessee, which was the beginning of March, the end of February, beginning of March. I watched Dune, the first movie, on the plane, and then I was like, Marcella, I can't believe this is the first time I've seen this. This is amazing. And the second one just came out in theaters. We need to go see it. And so I was like, this is I can't believe that I haven't watched it sooner. I can't believe there's a book and I haven't read it. And you and I are super into fantasy and sci-fi. And I just am kicking myself that we were so late to the game. But, we ended up watching the first movie again the day that we actually went to go see the second movie. So it was a Dune marathon.
Yeah.
And then we saw the second one. So my favorite is Dune 1 and Dune 2. So that's my watch favorite for the springtime. I can't even begin to describe how much that story and movie affected me. I'm not going to give it a hearty recommendation that you will love it, dear listener, because I guess it's for a very niche kind of person. Somebody that really enjoys sci-fi, fantasy. It's a dark story. There's violence, there may be some disturbing stuff. So please, before anytime we make a recommendation about something to watch or something to listen to, please look up a content review yourself before going and saying, "Oh, Gabby and Marcella said that this was great."
The most family-friendly, wholesome.
No. But yeah, it's not something that I think anybody would just don't watch it with your kids. It's a very adult movie, but there actually isn't any sexual content, explicit nudity or anything like that. I think there was one scene in the second one, but it was so fast and there was no nudity and it barely it was the end of something. So that can kind of give you an idea. So you're probably wait, what part was it? Because it happened so fast.
No, yeah, and I think if you just go to I'm sure IMDb has on the parents review or something. They have the specifics
that I will constantly. That is my every month, every week favorite. That we use that guide, the parent guide on IMDb, for every single thing that we watch, and it is so helpful because it's very detailed, and it doesn't just tell you sexual content. It also tells you if there's crude language, what they actually say, violence. It's very detailed. So, you at your own discretion, but. I absolutely loved the story of Dune. I just got the library book borrowed to listen to the audio, and I'm so excited to dive into it. I feel like such a poser for not reading it before watching it, but you know what? It's okay. I'm late to the game, and it's fine. And I'm actually kind of mad at all of my friends that are nerdier than me that didn't tell me about Dune, knowing that I'm such a Star Wars fan, because essentially Dune is pre-Star Wars. George Lucas was influenced by Dune, the story. So anyway, I just have to say I loved it so much. And the Hans Zimmer did the score, and he's the king. Marcella and I are huge Hans Zimmer fans. I even was like, I think he's coming to Vegas soon. And so I'm like, what can I
Wow.
do to go see him? You know?
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, the music was incredible. The cinematography was amazing. The actors were top tier. The story is just so well done. Anyway, what was your watching favorite this spring?
So Jed and I have been watching Poldark. This is my third time watching the series. I think what is it originally? It's not BBC.
It's a PBS masterpiece, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Masterpiece Classics or something like that. But this is the first time that Jed is watching the series through. And
Wow.
so it's like it's really cool like seeing him watch it. Like I can kind of live vicariously through him like watching it for the first time again. And it is a really good series. I think generally it is pretty clean. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like I wouldn't say it's children friendly because
It's not a
there's like
family friendly show. There's
no,
the
because there's like adult
adult themes.
concepts. Yeah,
Yeah.
themes and stuff like that. So but yeah, generally it's pretty clean and I really enjoy it. This is my third time watching it through. And I think at first I was like, okay, Jed, we're gonna watch this. Like, I'm not giving you a choice. Like, we're gonna watch this. And he was like, okay, like, it's like, it's because it's a period piece. Like, it's
Mhm.
back in I don't know what you would consider like the era that it's like filmed in or whatever. But yeah, but now he's like super into it. And like
Don't
all
you
the
love when that
drama and
happens?
like all yeah. So yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, I've been enjoying watching that again. And the last time I saw it was actually like a few years ago. So I had a good break from the last
Nice.
time that I've seen it. So some things are kind of like, oh wow, like I forgot that happened. Like okay, now it's like coming back to me again. So yeah, it's cool.
That's awesome. Okay, listen. So this is interesting because usually like I find a new podcast or I'm listening to something throughout the week, but honestly I've been listening to a lot of books recently, and since we already are doing a book reco, I decided I was going to choose what we've been listening to a lot on the Lord's Day. And I have already recommended this artist in my things to do on the Sabbath. I can't remember what the blog post is. Oh, Making the Sabbath a Delight is my blog post that I did where I give like a ton of recommendations of ways that you can make the Sabbath a delight. I give television and movie recommendations that are Christian or faith-based. I give Christian artists of various genres and like a bunch of other things to read, things to do with your kids, things to make the day special and like a holiday because it is the holy day. But this was on my recommendation for that list. And Keith Green is somebody that I feel like you and I grew up with. He is one of the OG Christian artists from the 70s. And he is just an incredible lyricist and pianist. He wasn't the best singer. And I think that's just so interesting about him, and his charm is that he has like a very unique voice. It's not like, wow, what a voice, but it's just his passion and emotion behind his songs, and his like piano playing is so good.
Yeah, it's not I don't know how you describe it. He's not a technical singer. Like he's not a technically perfect singer, but it's like he's an artist. Like you can tell. Like he has a lot of passion for his music. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've never heard of Keith Green or his story, his conversion story, his life and death, very inspiring, very sad. He died really young in a a plane crash accident. And he's just awesome. He would do his concerts for free, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people would come and watch him with his beautiful songs that he wrote. They're all faith-based. He does one of my favorite songs that he does is a psalm that he sings, and it's like word for word from the psalm, and it's just like so beautiful. Anyway, so my favorite album is his Ultimate Collection, and it has like all of his most popular songs, and it has a green album cover, and I'll throw it in the Patreon. But if you're not in the Patreon, green album cover, it's called The Ultimate Collection by Keith Green, and it has all of his most popular top songs. And I just love Keith Green, and I have always been wanting to do covers because I play piano very like similarly to him, like very
Mm,
choppy and like really like aggressive and loud, like when I used to play piano for church and stuff like that and do chord method and stuff like that. I feel like I really emulate a lot of his style of
mhm.
how he plays. So I don't know. Ryan and I are constantly saying like, "Ugh, I'd really like to like make some covers of some of his songs," but then it just goes by the wayside so quickly. But I just am a
That would be cool.
Huge Keith Green fan. Not a huge fan of some of his theological takes or everything he does, but just a very like, a man of simple faith that like was just an incredible artist, died very young. Tragic story, but like he made a huge impact, especially in the era of drugs and free love, and just like
Mhm.
he was just such an important figure in church history, in very recent church history. So, anyway, that's what I've been listening to. What about you?
Wow. Now I'm gonna go on a Keith Green kick because I haven't
And
listened to his stuff in
he
years.
has his documentary is on YouTube. So if you look up the
Oh,
Keith
wow.
Green story, that's a good thing to watch on a Sunday. We did that
Okay,
a
cool.
couple years ago. We watched it again, and I like was crying throughout the whole thing because it's just such a good story.
Okay, my listen favorite is classical marches.
This is
And
so on brand.
it's so okay, so random. And I will explain why. And there's one specific playlist on Spotify that I use, and it's the Great Classical Marches
Mm,
playlist on Spotify. And it has like the cover is like these guys kind of standing in a line, and they have like these red coats on, like in a like marching band kite type coats or
mhm.
whatever. Um the reason why, for one, I've just been listening to this playlist specifically because Seth requests it all the time. And it's
So cute.
usually our way that I one of the ways that I get the boys' wiggles out, like before lunchtime, or if we have to do something sitting down, or if we need to go take a nap and have a quiet time, or whatever it is. And I will turn the playlist on and we will march around the house. There's also a good way because if Liam's getting fussy and he likes to be held and I have to be walking around the house with him, if we're like getting close to nap time and I'm like trying to like lengthen how long he's been awake for and that sort of thing, marching around the house with a baby and my 4-year-old and 2-year-old also marching around the house. um yeah, it's a good way to get the energy out. And then on top of that, it's also a form of like music appreciation because
Oh yeah.
they're now like getting very familiar with the certain songs that they like or the certain pieces that they like to listen to and calling out the different instruments and like and all that stuff. So anyway,
I love it.
that's what we've been listening
So
to a lot.
on brand for you,
Yes.
Marcella. Okay, next is our favorite book from the springtime. And this one is a recent one that I just finished. Marcella and I and a small group of friends are going through the 1,000 Hours Outside book club list. And honestly, all the books up until this one have been flops, like mega
Yeah.
flops. Either they were boring or had a terrible worldview or just like completely off topic. I don't know.
Yeah.
I could be just being a whiny little baby, but honestly, like this book from the month of March, that we just finished is it redeemed all of the other ones. Like it was just
Mhm.
like it was all worth it to read the bad ones to read this one
Yeah, the
because
first two, yeah.
this is probably going to be on my like top 10 favorite books about child rearing. It's called Outdoor Kids in an Inside World by Stephen Ranella. And you also gave it a solid 4 stars. I also did. Fantastic book. It's on Libby if you have a library card, but you can also, get it on Audible. You can buy a hard copy. Um, I can't even recommend it enough. It is so good. It is part memoir, personal stories, and then also very practical. And it's not like, okay, so some people, when they're doing a type of a memoir where it's kind of educational also, sometimes it can seem really preachy where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, like you've completely figured this out and your family's perfect and you're so good at this. I did not feel like that at all. I feel like with this book the author talks about their family culture in such a positive way. And he talks about their highs and lows
Mhm.
and the things that worked, the things that didn't work. But I just really appreciated their emphasis on connecting their kids with nature in such an organic way that didn't feel forced or like hard or a burden, you
Or
know?
unrealistic. Yeah.
Yes. And there's like a part of the book that I was a little bit uncomfortable with because I'm just so detached from it myself is hunting and butchering animals. And again, if you listen to our last podcast about talking about how I'm a recovered plant-based anti-meat eater, um, it is jarring thinking about taking kids hunting, teaching them to hunt, teaching them like having them present while you're skinning and butchering an animal. It is crazy. And he talks about it a lot because it's a big part of their family culture. But I was honestly convinced by the end of the book like that he was able to use aspects of like hunting and other types of like wildlife experiences with his kids to have a lot of like hard conversations that that end up being kind of forced later on in life because it's like,
Mhm.
oh, we got to talk about death now, or we got to talk about how babies are being made now, and it's like has to be this crazy serious conversation. And he was able to have so many of these conversations with his kids about conception, about life, about death, about suffering, about loneliness, about just like really like mature topics that a lot of parents dread or struggle with figuring out how to have naturally and not awkwardly. He was able to have those conversations with his kids because they were so connected with their surroundings and with animals and with nature, and it's just so inspiring. And I this will definitely be a reread for me. It was really good.
Mhm. Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. So for mine, I decided to put Beyond Mere Motherhood by Cindy Rollins, and I think this
Bless.
is not a surprise. I mean, I gave her like a shining 10-star review or something like that on my
Mhm.
Goodreads, and it's so good. Like she is such a talented writer. She's very witty. She's hilarious. She is very relatable, but also like is willing to call you to do the better thing and to raise your standards and and it's just so cool. It's just like I think that this book specifically speaks a lot more to like mother culture
Mhm.
type content, why, how, what, all of it. And like I just love how she categorized it. I love the topics that she touched on. I think honestly like every woman should read it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, whether
Um,
you're gonna do Charlotte Mason or homeschool or anything,
yeah, yeah,
you need
yeah.
to read it. It's
Yeah,
an amazing book.
it is so, so, so good. And she gives like a lot of practical advice, and on top of that, she obviously ties it in with her own experiences and um she just like it the book never lost my interest at any point.
Mhm.
It was just all very engaging and interesting to me, and yeah, it was awesome, and that is definitely going to be a reread for me also.
Yeah. No, it was a beautiful book. Okay, drink. So, um, I had mentioned in the beginning of last month's podcast episodes that I had started some new medication, regarding my fertility and stuff, and that came with chronic nausea. Where and I was, like, trying to explain to Marcella and Shannon, like, "I feel gaggy."
Yeah.
Shannon's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "It just feels like it's in my throat all the time, and I just
Yeah.
it's not like I feel like I have to throw up," even though one day I was puking my guts out, which we still don't know if it was the meds or the flu, like, it's still a toss-up, but, like, for, like, the first 2.5 weeks, like, up until very, very recently, I was, like, just baseline nauseous, like, the entire
Yeah.
day. So,
Yeah.
my go-to, has been fizzy drinks. And because I don't want to have high fructose corn syrup or food dye in all of my drinks, I mean, don't judge me, but sometimes I just need a Coke. You need to have that
Mhm.
caramel color. Like there's nothing that tastes like it. I don't know. So sometimes I'll indulge, in a little sody, but regularly I like to abstain from soda. So I've been getting Olipop, which is a very popular probiotic soda alternative, and it has a lot of good ingredients, and it also kind of is, has probiotics in it too. So there's some benefits for your gut. So I've been getting a lot of those, but those can be kind of pricey too. So I try to only get like 4, and I try to like spread it out throughout my week so that I can enjoy it and not, because they're
Yeah.
expensive.
Mhm.
Sometimes Sprouts has a good deal, or Costco, and you can get it for a good deal, but regularly they're like $3 or something each. And it's like, for one can, man, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like,
Yeah, it's
so
steep.
so thankfully, I also have a soda stream that I've shared the story about how I got it several times. But essentially, it was a miracle gift from God. I found it at the thrift store for $30, brand new, with like 2 CO2 cans, 2 bottles. Like it's awesome. So, I had refilled my CO2 can recently when I was like desperate for some fizzy water, and I've just been having fizzy water with lemon, sometimes a little ginger powder. I don't know. I've just been constantly having fizzy water, and that's been helping me so much with the nausea. I can't
Mhm.
explain it. I don't know why that happens, but it does help. It's just better. It's like less icky for me than flat water right now. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know why. There's probably some scientific reason why my stomach can handle that better. But
I was also going to put Olipop because I think I don't remember the first time I tried it, but like sometimes you get like the off-brand soda or like the probiotic soda stuff, and you're
yeah,
like,
this is not
man, like
good. Yeah.
come on. But like the Olipop sodas are genuinely so
They're
delicious, like
so good.
so, so, so good. And I think mm, no, maybe that was a different time. But one time, I guess this could be like a drink slash dessert thing. But
Ooh.
Jed suggested we make root beer floats one night, and I haven't had a root beer float and I don't even know how long. And I was like, wow, like I forget that this is a thing. Like it's such
So
an
good.
easy dessert and it's so yummy. And now I want root beer floats again. But
Olipop also has a root beer flavor.
yes. Yeah. So like next time I'm gonna try to get Olipop. And I think we had it with ice cream that I made. So even
Wow.
better.
Top notch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's
Yeah.
my life drink. My
Yeah.
drink favorite.
Also, if you haven't seen my lowest homemaker post about how I made homemade butter beer and I used the Olipop
Mm,
cream soda, oh
yes.
man. Ryan and
Yeah.
I were like, this is the best thing we've ever eaten in our life. It was so good. I made homemade whipped cream, homemade
Yum.
butterscotch sauce. I used
Oh
the
wow.
Olipop, and it was like, wow.
So
It
good.
felt
So
it
good.
felt extremely indulgent, but it was really like healthy. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
bless. Okay, a baked good. So this is something that I feel ashamed that I've been waiting so long to make, but I have been scared of making a pie crust for my entire life. Well, as long as I've been cooking from scratch. Mostly because like if I'm like throwing together like a quiche or a pie or like a chicken pot pie, stuff like that, I'm like looking for an easy meal, and making a homemade pie crust sounds like the opposite of easy to me. So I've put it off for a long time, but this spring I've been making pie crusts, sourdough pie crust, farmhouse on the boons recipe. I'll link it on the Patreon. Um it is so good and so easy. And I found that if I prep the dough and then wrap it and put it in the freezer, then when I'm ready for that easy meal, I don't have to go to the store and buy a pie crust. I can
Mhm.
just grab it out of my freezer and bake it. In my Patreon, if you go and type in the search bar quiche, you can find my quiche recipe. I think it was in the August favorites. Don't quote me. Maybe. One of my blog posts, if you just search in the Patreon bar, you'll find my quiche recipe, and it is a crowd pleaser. I make it for every time
Mm,
we are hosting people. It's such a great thing to make when you're feeding an army, because you can
mhm,
make you don't have to use a ton of eggs to like feed people a ton of protein, and it's really good.
right.
So that's what I've been baking. What about you?
Um, I mean, here I am again with another Farmhouse on Boone
What
recipe.
could we say? She's the goat.
I know. So I made this sourdough chocolate babka bread. It's like a loaf, and it is so good. The
What?
recipe that she has yields 2 loaves. So I baked both of them, but I froze one of them
First of
after
all,
baking.
what is a babka?
It's kind of like a no, like a twist. There's different ways that you can make babkas, but the
Okay, I'm
one
looking at it now.
the one that's on her recipe, you make the dough, you almost roll it like like you're gonna make cinnamon rolls, but instead of cutting
Interesting.
it into rolls, you slice it down the middle lengthwise. So you like roll it up into the log, you slice it down the middle lengthwise, and then you wrap the 2 strands around each other and you place
Wow.
it in a loaf pan and you bake it like that. And
This looks so good, dude.
literally, I think we ate the 1 loaf in what, babe, like 12 hours? It did not last a day.
Wow.
We ate the whole thing. It was so yummy. It was so, so, so yummy. Um, so yeah, that's definitely a highlight.
I
A
need to
highlight for
try
today.
that. That
Yeah.
looks so good.
And it was easier than I thought it was gonna be. Because I feel like when you have to, like, have inclusions with doughs and stuff, it feels really, like,
Yeah,
oh,
daunting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but it was faster than I thought it was gonna be. Yeah.
I have never made a bad sourdough recipe from Farmhouse on Boone. She is the most trusty
No, I don't think I have
site.
either.
Like, I've made other sourdough recipes where I was like, "Meh, I don't know, like, it just didn't turn
Yeah,
out the
yeah,
way I
yeah.
wanted to," but hers are so reliable, and she tests hers in her kitchen for a while before she
Mhm.
makes a blog about it. So, anyway, such a reliable source. Okay, something that we've been cooking this spring. So, this is just something simple that I've been doing. I've been doing chicken leg quarters, and which is, if you don't know what a chicken leg quarter is, it's like a leg and a thigh attached, so it's not cut. And I've been baking it just with some chicken seasoning in the oven. And then I've been making sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts and also throwing those in the oven. Just I've been quartering my Brussels sprouts, which makes them a lot more crispy in the oven.
Mhm.
Um, but what I've been doing that has been so great just to like amp up the flavors of our vegetables is making a honey butter garlic glaze.
Wow.
So easy. I melt like I'd say about 2 or 3 tablespoons of butter in a small cast iron skillet. I throw either some minced garlic or garlic powder on there. And then I also put like maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons of honey, salt, pepper, and some onion powder, and I mix it all up. And then I pour it all over whatever veggie I'm cooking, and I just toss it, and it is so good. It like
Mhm.
caramelizes your sweet potatoes or
Yum.
your vegetables. And it's so easy, and most people have honey, butter, and seasonings in their house. And it's such
Mhm.
an easy marinade. It's affordable, and it's just so so good. One thing that I was like feeling like is a money grab is those like marinating packs that you can get at the store. And I'm just like, if we have the time, because sometimes, we get a marinating pack if we like need something really quick. But it's
Mhm.
like, if we can just learn a couple super easy marinades or glazes to amp up like our meats or our vegetables, then we can always have those, ingredients, just simple ingredients in our pantry or in our fridge. Then we won't have to grab these, pre-marinated meats or marinade packets or marinade bottles. It's
Mhm.
like, just need some butter, dude.
Yeah.
Like, butter
Yeah.
makes everything better.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you?
So I
Huh.
put Instant Pot barbecue beef ribs, and
Wow.
I've been getting this pack of ribs from Costco, and
Mm.
they're like pretty inexpensive. It like takes care of a lot of meat for all of us. And I put them, usually I like freeze all of my meat and then I just take out like the morning of to let it thaw.
Yeah.
And I'll thaw the ribs enough to where I can at least pull them apart because obviously when they're frozen they're like solid and you have to be able to
Yeah.
stick them in the instant pot a certain way
Right.
so that they all fit. Excuse me. So I put them all in the instant pot. I put like um 1 to 2 cups of water, sometimes with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. I'll put in there too. And then I will put it on high for 25 minutes, I believe. If your ribs are completely thawed, I think you can do it for less time. I think you can do like 15 minutes or something.
Mhm.
But usually I do 25. And then, oh, I thought I heard a baby, but it was just my husband's phone. Um, anyway, 25 minutes, and then I will usually take them out. I'll put them in a baking dish, and I'll put the barbecue sauce on them, and then I'll put them in the
Yum.
oven. And you can either bake or broil them. I think usually I bake them for another 10 minutes at like 450, and it like caramelizes the sauce. And the meat
Nice.
is like falling off the bone. It's so buttery. It's so tender. And then like the sauce is like caramelized from being in the oven, and it's just wow, it's so good. And so like I'll make that, and
Wow.
I'll do like these really nice baked big sweet potatoes with like butter and cinnamon and like a little salt and like wow, it's so yummy.
That sounds so
So
good. I
yummy.
need to try
Yeah,
that
it's so
soon.
good.
Okay, the next is a kid/infant favorite. So this has been something that I've been implementing for preconception care, but then I also plan to follow their prenatal protocol. So we talked about the Nourishing Traditions book by Sally Fallon last week, but I'm going to recommend the Nourishing Traditions book of baby and child care. That's also by Sally Fallon, and Thomas Cowan also contributes to it. But it's just very specific about introducing first foods and nourishing foods for young ones. But they also, in the beginning of the book, have an extensive guide for prenatal care and preconception care.
Mhm.
And so I've been following the preconception protocol for the past couple months, which primarily consists of raw dairy, cod liver oil, beef liver, which I take the capsules. I cannot stomach actual liver right now, like
Well,
eating it. I'm sorry. I
yeah.
want to get on my sister's level right now, but it literally like it's so traumatizing to think about it. But no, I still take it, I just have to get it what is it called? Desecrated liver. Where it's been
De
like freeze
desiccated.
yeah, desiccate no, desecrated desiccated liver. Anyway, yeah, so and then eggs. So there's like a few different things that you eat, where you get the optimal nutrition and stuff. So that's what
Mhm.
I'm going to recommend. Not only does it have awesome resources for infants and child feeding, I think they go up to like older elementary age in that book, but also they have prenatal and preconception recommendations. So pretty cool. What about you?
Yes, so one thing that I do not agree with in the Nourishing Traditions book of baby and child care is that she kind of harps on baby-led weaning
Oh,
because
she hates baby led weaning.
her
She
thing
hates it.
her thing is like, why would you waste the food? Like the baby needs to eat it, and they're just gonna throw it all over the floor, and it's a huge mess. And da, da, da. And like, yes, I can understand where she's coming from, but I think
Yeah,
there's more to introducing solids than
right,
just the nutritional aspect. Like, I
right.
think there are sensory things that also need to be developed and like
Yeah.
motor skills and things like that. Oral function, stuff like that. So, a good middle ground, there's an account that I have been following for a really long time now, and I love her content. the account is called Thriving Foundations on
Mm,
Instagram, and
cool.
it's a holistic approach to baby-led weaning, and she does follow a lot of the, like, dietary guidelines that, are presented in the book that you were talking about,
Cool.
but in baby-led weaning
Style.
form. So what
Yeah.
are, like, good first foods that you can incorporate? Because I think in the book, she does focus quite a bit on more purees, everything is very, like, soft, like the custards and, like, all of that sort of thing,
Mhm.
which is good. I think there's still a place for the very soft, pureed food because that is still a texture that babies need to get
Oh,
used
yeah,
to.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't like, not everything needs to be, like, something that they can hold with their hand and, like, things like that. But, um, yeah, the Thriving Foundation is foundations on Instagram, and I think she, like, has a course or something like that, that you can take if you really want nitty-gritty details of how she recommends doing a more ancestral diet, baby-led weaning type thing when starting solids with your infant.
Cool.
I can't vouch for it because I don't have the course. I never bought it or did it or anything like that. But from what I've seen on her account, I would recommend that. So you can kind of do a combination of it,
Yeah,
like
it, like,
taking
bridges a
recipes from the
gap, it
book.
seems
Yes,
like,
yes,
a bridge
yes.
between, like, ancestral eating and also baby-led weaning
Doing
and,
baby-led
like,
weaning
meeting in the middle a
with
little bit.
those, yeah, with those ingredients and foods and all that.
Yeah, cool.
Um, and one more thing with the starting solid stuff, getting a high chair that has little to no grooves in it and nooks and crannies is going to like the most streamlined that you can get a high chair, the better because it makes baby led weaning way less frustrating when you're having to clean up because it gets so messy, especially like the younger they are, they just like have little to no muscle control. And so food's just flying and smeared and it's all over the place. Which is the point. Like this is how they learn. But I really love our IKEA high chair. We've had the same one since Seth was very, very
Mhm.
little. So, 4 years ago. And it's very streamlined. There aren't a lot of parts you have to take out and little grooves you have to watch and like levers and da da da. So that along with the footstool that it comes with because having their feet on something is also important for their digestion because there's something about being able to support yourself through your feet while you're eating that's really important for babies to be able to do. There are footstools that the company Yeah Baby Goods makes that can be adjusted to the height um, of your baby. And we were even able to use it with Seth, and he was very little at that age. Like he was smaller
Very
than
petite.
average,
Yeah.
very petite. Um, we were able to use it with Eli, and yeah, I would highly recommend. It's not like it doesn't have all of the cushions and materials you have to wash all the time. It's just plasticky and hard, and it's all just like very simple, streamlined. Like I said, not a lot of grooves and stuff, so that it just like takes 20 minutes to clean because you're trying to
Mhm.
get into all of the crannies and everything. It's just like a
Yeah.
nightmare. So, highly recommend that.
Awesome. Great recommendation. Okay. Our last recommendation is just something random that we wanted to share. So, as the months get warmer and we're spending more time outside, I'm always going to recommend, and this has been something that I'm so glad that we've got for our backyard, is a bird feeder, a wild bird feeder. So there's different kinds of bird feeders, and you can do your research to see maybe what birds are in your area. So we live in a city, and we live in Henderson, and in Henderson, Nevada, we have a like there's hundreds of wild bird species that live in Henderson. We have like an entire bird viewing preserve in Henderson dedicated to these ecosystems of birds. It's just pretty incredible. So anyway, I have been building my own bird viewing preserve in my backyard with just a simple bird feeder that has a couple different stands so multiple birds can be feeding at the same time. And I found it on Amazon, and I'll link the particular one in the Patreon. And I also got a wild bird seed. And so I did the research, made sure like, okay, the birds that we have in our city, is it safe for them, and made sure, because I don't want to poison the birds,
Yeah.
But the wild bird seed, so when I fill up my bird feeder, my backyard becomes a bird sanctuary. And
Wow,
then
that's
like
so cool.
it's so cool. And then my bird feed is gone in like less than 3 days. And then I'm like, I cannot afford to keep
Yeah.
feeding you birds. So usually what I'll do is I'll fill it up, and then I'll let them go crazy and have their buffet. And then a couple weeks later will go by before I refill it again, because I'm like, I'm not going, like, these are not my pets. Okay.
Yeah,
These are
yeah,
wild
yeah.
birds. You are not relying on me to be your mom and feed you. But it's so fun, especially in the morning when I'm like drinking my coffee and sitting outside when it's warm outside, just like watching them come, and so many different species come. So look up in your area what birds are nearby and can you feed them, and build your own little bird sanctuary outside. And that's so fun for your kids, especially if you are into nature study or more like Charlotte Mason type of
Mhm.
education. This is like a super affordable way to bring nature to you. And I live in a um suburban area, like 30 minutes from Las Vegas. Okay. I am like nowhere in a rural area, and
Yeah.
I'm able to enjoy in my HOA housing track, these beautiful birds. And I don't even have to leave my backyard. I can just sit and watch them and enjoy them. So anyway, that's my recommendation. What about you?
Last thing is this coffee milkshake frappuccino concoction that I've been making.
Whoa.
And yeah, I know. I do like, usually the only time I drink coffee is when Jed leaves me coffee in the fridge. If he doesn't make it, I won't even bother making it for myself. So it's usually starting with like an iced coffee, an iced espresso, or something like that. So I'll do like the coffee. I'll do, if I have collagen, I'll put collagen in it. Um, and then I'll do 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream.
Wow.
And then I'll do, I don't remember if I put milk in it. I don't think so. I don't know. You kind of have to like blend it first to see if you like the
Mm.
consistency. Oh, and I'll put like a cup of ice too. And it's like this super yummy, like icy milkshake
Wow.
frappuccino. It is so
I
good.
have
And then
I have a little bit of ice cream left from the last time I made some, so now I'm like, I'm gonna have to make myself a
yes,
little.
it's so good with the vanilla ice cream. And then like you don't really have to add any like sweetener because you're
Yeah, yeah.
already putting ice cream in it, which is like the sweetener in itself. And wow, it is so good. And even better with the collagen, you can like get a little bit of protein or
Wow.
whatever in there. So
That sounds so good.
yeah.
Well, I hope you
That's it
guys
for me.
enjoyed our spring favorites for 2024. Let us know if you have been loving anything this spring in our Facebook group, on our Patreon. Hit us up on Instagram, and we will talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.